Welcome and good morning, everyone. Happy to bring you along here today. My name is Randy Lober, your Growth Marketing Manager here at Action Benefits, and I'm happy to welcome you to today's panel discussion where we'll hear from Karl Albrecht, Lori Lockhart, and David Blackburn about the state of the small group market and some ways that Action Benefits can be by your side to help both now and in the future. With all that said, I again want to welcome you here today and turn it over to Karl for a bit of an update on the state of the market.
Great. Thank you, Randy. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a while since I've had an opportunity to address folks I've worked with for a long time. There's been a huge amount of change going on the last few years, as most of you are aware, and some of the biggest changes are going into effect right now with the shift over from servicing with Action Benefits to a direct service model that the Blues have implemented. And for a lot of agents, this has really created a dilemma for them because of the learning curve. A lot of cases, small group was a part of their business that made sense with the support. And in some ways, for a lot of agents we're talking to, between the learning curve and the efforts involved, it's becoming more of an anchor and not really a profit center for them. So we've been talking to a lot of agents looking at different options. David's going to go into some real detail on that. But again, the organizational changes that we're all going through are different. It's a new environment for all of us, but one thing that we're continuing to stay focused on is the small group market, that really micro market that our systems have been developed for, our service platforms are in place for, and making sure the customer is taken care of. So working with agents, we've been doing a lot of different things that have been supportive of that model. Blue Cross seems to be very comfortable with how we're moving forward as well. The marketplace, it's important that we're out there and supporting the different products and carriers as part of what we're doing when we're working with agents in the business. Going forward, I'm going to have Lori's going to take over and talk a little bit. As most of you know, I got sick a few years ago, was diagnosed with cancer. Lori stepped in as acting president, took over as president a few years ago. And I've been working more behind the scenes with strategy and helping direction the company. But a great team in place and really excited, and I'm very happy you were all able to join us today. So welcome. And Lori, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Karl. Good morning, everyone. For those of you that I have met, it's great to see you again. For those of you that have had the opportunity to meet, I am Lori Lockhart, and I do also, along with Randy and Karl, thank you for joining us this morning. I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about the market from our perspective and Action Benefits and what we see from an outlook, and then I'll be handing off to David after that. So when we think about where the state of the channel is, to Karl's point just a few minutes ago, June 1st, represented the time when all small group business for Blue Cross transitioned back to the carrier. So Action at this point is no longer playing that traditional MAGA role that you all would be used to from a servicing your group book perspective, with one exception that we'll get to in a bit. So there's more to come on that piece. We all know that there's some leadership changes that are going to happen at the carrier level that can create volatility. It also can create opportunities, makes it exciting for us all to think about things that could happen relative to that. We're also seeing that carriers are continuing to seek cost savings across their enterprise. So looking at, from a staffing perspective, what the service they're providing, looking at an increase in what technology and self-service they need. And there's downward pressure on commissions. Many of you probably saw the Blues marketplace yesterday, where there will be some changes when it comes to small group when we get to 2025 at Blue Cross. And then that's really kind of taking and dovetailing the commissions aspect of things. The last bullet on this page talks about inflation, what utilization is, and how much that has been higher than anticipated, and how specialty drugs are really driving premiums, which is then again kind of having a cause and effect as it relates to that downward pressure on commissions. Other things we see on the state of the channel is unprecedented consolidation. Some of you have probably already participated in it. Some of you may be evaluating it now. Mid-size agencies we see are merging to scale up. The larger conglomerates are really looking at merger and acquisition opportunities, and those models have matured. But the question that we still are evaluating and we watch as we watch the market is that delivering the benefits that the agents expected that become part of those mergers and acquisitions? We're also seeing from our perspective that larger agencies, FMOs and GAs, are getting swallowed up by private equity. They are absolutely entering the market, and folks are evaluating those as opportunities as well. When we look at rate increases and the regulatory changes, we see that Q4 and Q1 of 2025 look to be challenging for a variety of reasons. We're going to see double-digit increases across small group renewals. We believe that that is going to cause groups to have to shop a little bit to look at alternatives. Now, double digits are happening across all carriers, but it also gives you an opportunity for a group to ask you, do they want to look at alternative carriers at this point and understand what are the differences? That could drive for you significant work volumes. When we look in the Medicare space, the final rule that came out that CMS provided, it leaves the carriers scrambling at this point. I've even had conversations as recent as earlier last week about still working through the benefits and things of that nature, excuse me. So while it creates some clarity, it's also creating some uncertainty as it relates to what agent comp can look like. What is going to be available to an agent? What is a carrier going to have to pay? What is really those rules of any additional compensation that may be available to you from an FMO above and beyond what a carrier can pay? Then looking at benefit and PDP changes, those are also going to have impacts as it relates to Medicare beneficiaries, and they need to shop some different plans potentially to make sure that it's still affordable for them. Agents that are working in both of these markets or heavily weighted in one or the other may struggle to develop new business because they've got to make sure they're protecting the book that they have and ensure that the renewals are handled in the proper form. We're also seeing that many agents not primary focused in healthcare are looking to move out of the health insurance industry. It's creating opportunities and disruption in places that we see as well. When we talk about action as an organization, we are 65 strong. We are in a building now. We are still in Southfield. We have moved since maybe some of you have seen us. We moved. It's been about 16, 17 months ago. We are about half a mile from the building we were in before. Any of you traveling northbound on the lodge would actually see our logo in the middle of the building that we're on. Currently, on the top of our building is now Bell Tire. We're on the 6th floor in this building. Would love any of you to stop by and visit us. If you haven't had an opportunity to come see our space, we'd welcome a visit and the opportunity to talk to you. We're still family owned. Carl's on the call this morning. He already mentioned that he still works very closely. He and I are in discussion a lot, really looking at continuing to grow and evolve the business. Very proud to say that we were one of 2023's Detroit Free Press Best Workplaces to Work winners, something that we don't take lightly. We work hard to take care of our employees and make them proud of the place that they work. So that's something we're very proud of. Obviously, we are embracing the evolution of the industry, the evolution of action benefits, and also looking at focused on growth. The coming to the end of our current GA agreement with Blue Cross actually has really allowed us to embrace that evolution and think about things from a different perspective. How do we continue to support you all in what you need, focus in the right areas, and bring that service home to you? Kind of following on that, the next bullet talks about how we're diversified. We have diversified into a number of different areas, creating stability and the ability for us to continue to provide comprehensive solutions. Saying it again, we are committed to agent distribution and agent independence. We really view ourselves still as that agent advocate for you, wanting to play whatever role makes the most sense for you and the most sense for us as it relates to how you best take care of your business. And we're protecting partners with unprecedented disruption. We're not looking to play any more significant role than you need, and we welcome the opportunity to have those conversations. One of the things that's exciting for me related to all of this is we can be situational. Every situation is different, and we can come to the table with different solutions. Again, looking for those opportunities where it's a best fit for both sides. Taking a side step for 1 second, move into the next slide. We can talk a bit about where we are in our under 65 and Medicare space. When you think about the evolution and the growth of action from a continued expansion perspective, we are an FMO and a GA in the under 65 and Medicare business space today. You can see the carriers that we work with in both of these. We are not exclusive. We have the ability to work with any carriers that we like. We are prescriptive about the carriers we choose to work with, and those are carriers that we know agents want us to work with. Again, another area, we love the opportunity to talk about carriers that may make sense to you. As it relates to the team that we have in place, we've got a team of 9 individuals led by Dan Wren. As it mentions here, something I personally am very proud of across this team, we've got almost 50 years of combined experience and an average tenure of 6 years. We are focused on providing service, support, and giving you that back end pieces that you need to help grow your business. We've got account managers in place. They work closely with those that are under us today. Welcome the opportunity to talk to those of you that don't have your business with us there today. We provide support, training, expertise, anything you need. We'll do some certification support where that's related. We'll help quote, we'll help you sell, we'll do application processing, taking that well-rounded piece of ensuring that we're focused in the areas that you need to allow you to continue to grow your business. And with that, I'm now going to turn it over to David, who's going to focus on the small group space specifically and where we see things and where we're headed and opportunities we see with you.
Well, thank you so much, Lori. And thank you all for being with us today. It's great to see so many familiar names in the room. My name's Dave Blackburn. I'm a broker sales manager here at Action. For those of you that don't know me, what that means is that my job is really about finding solutions and helping agents align with the right solutions. So whether that be carriers or products or technology or the right people, my job really focuses on making those connections. So kind of makes me a logical person to talk about things happening in the group world, as you do have some options, as you think about the support that you need. I've listed a few of them out here. I think really there's really 3 options here. The one listed as number 3 is sort of complementary in a number of ways, and we'll talk through that. But I would encourage you to look at this list not as a menu, because not every option is the right fit for every agent. And, there are a lot of considerations that go into all of this. So the first item I've listed here is continue with the status quo. And what that really means is kind of embracing the new norm. I don't want to undersell this. The Blues have built out a service model for small group business. They've got lots of folks invested in it, lots of technology, time, and money. So if you choose to do nothing, you can work through them directly. Their expectation, of course, is that you're going to self-service for quotes and processing new groups or group-wide changes and membership and all of those things using their online tools. Of course, you also, if you are of a size that they deemed warranting it, have an assigned account rep you can lean on when you need an escalation pathway or something a little bit more human. If you fall below that threshold, you've got a service pod, a collection of great folks that we've worked with for a lot of years who will help kind of play that same traffic cop role and help you navigate the Blues, so on and so forth. What this really means, and the reason I've got a picture of the contact chart, is that you're going to end up having to find your way around through the Blues. And this 3-page document is likely to become one of your better friends, because the expectation is that if you can't do something in self-service, you're going to find your way to membership and billing or account services or any of the functional areas that make up the small group model and keep things running. Of course, I've also noted that there's a new portal coming. You may have started that migration process. If you've been to the login screen, you've probably seen a little pop-up about it saying that it's on the horizon and you're going to have to change usernames and passwords. This is a great change, quite frankly. It's going to resolve a number of access issues that folks have seen over the years. It's also going to streamline the Blues online properties to make it easier to find the things you need, direct you into one source more effectively, direct you to the right tools, and also make it easier to find some of the stuff that sometimes has historically felt hidden, when you're looking for forms or specific underwriting detail. I understand it's got some great search functionality. So that's something to look forward to. And this is definitely an option that fits for a lot of our agent partners. If you're proficient with the self-service tools, if your volumes in the client space are complementary to working directly with a carrier, This will feel very similar to relationships you probably have with other competitors, or if you work with Blues plans elsewhere around the nation. A lot of this is about kind of better aligning the Blues with other partners in the association and their service models. So again, totally an option for you. The other item, that I talk to a lot of agents about is finding an exit, because this change is incredibly disruptive. It is the biggest change that's happened to the service channel, probably since the ACA, definitely since our last contract a few years ago. And ultimately, if you're, not focused on health, or if you're nearing retirement, it is a really good time to be a seller. All of the consolidation we've seen in the market, of agencies and so on over the last few years has driven values up. I think the value of a book of business is at the highest it's been in my entire career right now. And obviously there are lots of factors that can play into that, but I think there are plenty of people out there looking to buy, and a competitive market is good if you're a seller. So lots of options there. Even small books have appeal right now. I think folks are hungry and they see that there's opportunity. So, while I think, everybody looks for those big prizes, those big books that can really redefine an organization's footprint. If you're of a smaller size, don't rule yourself out. There's plenty of opportunity out there. Timing is everything, like so many things in life. I don't think this market is going to stay this aggressive for long. As Lori spoke to downward pressure on commissions and other changes in the industry, I think all of that will impact things, and cumulatively that's going to cool things off as we get further down the road. The other thing to consider is timing. Renewals specifically can play a big role in a sale. Everybody wants to buy stuff they're going to be able to retain, and so they're looking at those timelines as they evaluate these types of opportunities. And of course, it's always good to have good counsel to talk to, whether it's your CPA, your legal partners, your lawyers, so on and so forth, about any of this before you dive too deeply in. But if you're thinking about selling, some of your key considerations, really, what are my personal goals? How long do I want to be in the industry? Is health a key focus? Are there other aspects of my business that matter? What am I looking to sell? Is it just, my group business? Maybe I have Medicare practice and that's really taken over as the driver of my time and my revenue. Is it, a partial sale? Do I want to look at rehoming certain clients and not others? Do I have physical assets that play into this, whether that's an office or technology or, can't even be people in certain instances. So these are all things that you have to consider. Of course, clients are always first and foremost in your mind. And I know that speaking to agents, that's always your top concern. How are my clients gonna embrace this? How are they going to react to the change? How does my book align with a potential buyer? That's huge. You want to find a partner to take over that really sees your book as their wheelhouse. Are they familiar with size groups, the industries, the products, the carriers, all of those things? Are they going to be able to deliver for your clients? Because at the end of the day, that's all of our goal is to take care of the end consumer. And of course, you've got to consider other aspects of your business. If you sell off just the health or just a market, are there other lines that are going to be impacted? Will a potential buyer protect your interest there, or will they compete with you? This comes up a lot as I talk to folks in the P&C space or financial planners that aren't ready to sever relationships on that side of the business, but they've, found that it's time to get out of the health market. And so you always want to make sure that you've had a good conversation with a potential buyer to know where their business is heading, what directions they move in, and what products they focus on, and to make sure that you've got, kind of complementary offerings and that you're going to take care of each other as best you can. And of course, the other consideration that I think is really critical here is how long do you want to stay involved, and, how involved do you want to be? This can play a big part in the value of your book and kind of in the overall strategy of an exit. And this last bullet really kind of ties into that. And what is your risk tolerance here? Ultimately, you know, I've seen a variety of models as people sell out of the business or merge into other agencies with a plan to exit. You may be able to maximize your potential revenue from a sale by staying involved for a certain time frame and helping to transition and ensure that attrition in the business is minimized. Or if you know you're in a situation where you're looking to make a quick exit, there may be opportunities to take less money but have it be guaranteed. And so these things all need to come across your mind as you're evaluating these opportunities if you're looking at a sale. Of course, from there, you know, there's some work you can do to kind of evaluate the situation and prepare for those discussions and to get down to evaluation. You know, the first one is think about your timeline. You know, how soon do you want to be out? Where are you heading? You know, when do you want to be out on the golf course? So on and so forth. It's always good to be familiar with your contracts, with your carriers, your vendors, if you've got leases, so on and so forth. I will call out carriers specifically, especially if you are working with an upline of any kind. It's always good to know your standing in that situation. Make sure that you have the authority to sell your own book, that you are upwardly mobile with it, and that you are agent of record. I have seen in my career times when an agent believed they were able to do so and their upline had a contract they weren't aware of that glued the business basically to the upline and made it so it wasn't transferable to another agent. That can be a real, you know, problem if you're looking to make an exit. And so always good to be familiar with kind of where you stand in those contract terms. Of course, to get down to any kind of a conversation and ultimately a value, you're going to need to understand your book of business and be able to provide that information to a potential partner. So basic data, your clients, the carriers, how many contracts, what markets, what products, all of those things. Commission statements are a fabulous way to get to some of that detail. They're a great starting point often. 1099s and tax docs, a little bit less so. They don't give the book detail. They just give you kind of a revenue picture. Some of that's helpful. Sometimes you need it as you're going through due diligence and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the more data you can compile and the more usable a format you can put it in, the more powerful your conversations are going to be. And you know, to a certain extent, the easier it's going to be on a potential buyer to give you really their best foot forward in an offer. Of course, again, like I said, consult your professionals, your tax folks, your lawyers, so on and so forth. Understand the tax implications that a sale is going to have for you or your business. Understand, you know, the contract items that need to be included, the protections you want to see. Enlist good help. It's always worth having a contract reviewed and make sure you're reading these things in detail. Another item you'll want to do is talk to your E&O provider. You still have liability for the work you've done even after you've sold the book. It's not an ongoing liability, but you have liability for anything you did while practicing. And so E&O carriers address this in a variety of ways. Some build coverage for it into the E&O coverage that you've been paying for all this time. Others may have you transition into a tail policy, as generally what they call it, that will cover for errors and omissions that happened while you were working. Most savvy buyers are going to want you to have this in place because it also, you know, while they're going to take over the liability when they transfer the book, ultimately it's in their interest to make sure that you're covered. So there's, you know, no hole in a contract that allows the seller to come back on them, et cetera, et cetera. So always a good practice to have that conversation. And it's been my experience that E&O carriers can be kind of hard to get answers out of. So that can be a little bit of a timeline issue sometimes. Last but not least, as you're talking to partners, it never hurts to ask or to put in place a confidentiality agreement. You're going to share data. You're going to have to talk in proprietary terms. If it brings a level of comfort and transparency to the conversation, always a good idea to sign a confidentiality or non-disclosure. And that can be done very quickly and easily. So as you get into that process, of course, the first question is really, what's it worth? You know, what is my book worth to someone? And there are a ton of factors that play into this. Obviously, they're going to look at the composition of the book. What markets do you work in? What lines of business are you including? What carriers? Does it align with their book, their licensing, all of those things? Size is a big factor. I'll avoid all the innuendo and jokes, but when you get down to it, that's really what you're buying a lot of the time is a contract count. And so the buyer's going to evaluate the number of contracts to the number of groups to see what your average group sizes are, if that aligns with the markets they work in well, and ultimately, they're going to place different values on different sizes and so on and so forth. Medicare, obviously, they're probably going to look at Medicare Advantage versus Med Sup because the compensation is very different. And you're probably looking at, kind of the average age of subscribers and trying to predict against average life expectancy. In the under 65 market, we often look at on versus off market. Statistically, off market is a little lower maintenance. It's also easier to transfer. But on market makes up a bigger segment of the business these days. So the values can be different depending on the makeup and, various experience with various carriers and certification statuses and so on and so forth. Persistency, just what have you done to make these clients as sticky as possible to you? How much of that persistency is transferable? And how much can a buyer predict their ability to retain? Nobody wants to buy something and lose it right away. That's not in anybody's interest, and it's not good for the client either. And then, of course, as I mentioned before, additional assets. If you've got physical properties, if you've got staff, if you've got, things that you want to sell with the book, or is it just a book purchase? This can all impact the value. And at the end of the day, the old cliche is true. It's worth what somebody's willing to pay for it. So, that's why I urge you to really be transparent, get all the data out on the table, think through those factors about your timelines and so on and so forth. Of course, the goal, generally speaking, and everybody approaches this a little bit differently, but it's really to get down to some multiple of your annual commissions as the value of the book. And then from there, the structure, the payout, and the transition can play a big factor in the overall value that somebody's willing to pay for your business. And that's, again, speaking to, do you want to stay involved over a certain window of time? How much transition do you want to provide? That sort of thing. So all considerations that are worth your time. If you have worked with Action any length of time, you may not realize that we are, in fact, buyers in this scenario. Over the last 3 years, we've completed more than 30 acquisitions across all the markets that we work in, and a few that we don't traditionally support as a MAGA, FMO, and books of a variety of sizes. In the retail space, we've got a great team, but we are not exclusive to Blue. We can work with all of the major carriers. In fact, we've got lots and lots of appointments with the major national players, regional carriers, and we're currently doing business in 17 states. That number continues to expand as we diversify. And we do slightly more than health. Everything that we do is focused really in the health and employee benefits realm. I loathe the idea of working in P&C just because it seems so foreign to me, even though I have lots of friends in that end of the industry. We don't try to. We've, really stuck to our wheelhouse in, working with partners and buying books that are a nice fit for what we do well, because at the end of the day, it's all about the clients. Of course, that comes back to what I was saying about protecting your interests. We're very open to arrangements where agents want to stay in one end of the business but exit another, and there are ways that we can protect each other in that. And at the end of the day, I think it makes for a better sale, a better partnership in that kind of sense. And again, interested in books of all sizes. If you're interested in having a conversation about this, absolutely no commitment, but I'd be happy to chat with you. My colleague Robert Hamlin's another great resource. He's always available. The QR code that you see here gives you access to our Calendly. It'll let you book a meeting on either of our calendars, kind of round robin based on who's available when you're available. But if you've got a relationship with either of us, you're welcome to contact us directly anytime as well. And our info's there. I promise I will show you this QR code again if you didn't have a second to get your phone up. But I do want to keep the discussion moving along and be mindful of your time. So Our third option, and as I mentioned, this is sort of a non-option, but a complement to anything that you might do in this space, is really focusing elsewhere and filling the gap for your health practice. So if you're a PNC agent, if you're a financial planner, and you're realizing that you're not going to focus on health, maybe you're going to sell that piece of your practice, or maybe you're just not going to focus on its growth at this point because of these changes. We do offer a fabulous referral program for agent partners, and this has been a big piece of the growth in our retail space. For agents that don't serve various markets, whether it's Medicare or on Marketplace, or I even have some agents that don't work in the group space, but write Medicare and under 65 all day. We can put an agreement in place to serve the clients you want to send our way. No referral quotas, no obligations, doesn't limit you from selling in any market, of course, but it does give you an opportunity to provide potential clients great consultation from folks that really know their stuff, great licensed experts, access to a huge portfolio of carriers across the states that we work in. And we can help you market this if you want to be aggressive with it, certainly with co-branded materials and a very collaborative approach. I've talked to some agents that do a lot of personal lines business, and they've thought, gee, I could really help a lot of these folks with Medicare, but it's not my wheelhouse. We can work with you to make that happen. And ultimately, that will help make your clients stickier in whatever market you are serving them. So the nice thing here, regardless of market, to receive a referral fee, there's no certification requirement. In fact, you don't even technically have to be an agent. So if certification is the bar that keeps you out of a market, consider us as an option for you if you run into some of that business that requires those annual certs. And of course, we pay the CMS maximum referral fees for Medicare business. They do actually regulate what we can pay. So again, a great compliment if you're selling. If you're not selling in a specific market, if you're getting out of the business, focusing elsewhere, any opportunity we have to fill those shoes for you, we'd be happy to discuss. And again, Robert or I would be more than happy to take that discussion. The fourth option, I think this is the big one that a lot of you have jumped on for today, and I see a few folks that already have this relationship with us. So thanks. We appreciate your business and really excited about the potential here. This is really an opportunity to collaborate differently. It's something we call a co-broker arrangement. And the goal is really to get our producers back to the good old days. If you remember us as a managing agent with a great complement of support for anything you need, all of those items that are now considered self-service, anything under 100 FTEs enrolled. We put great technology in your hands with coverage for companies, and there were no direct costs and potentially better commissions. We may be able to get back to that place for you. We've got a great opportunity these days. So to unpack that a little bit, I'm going to take you through a few quick charts here. This is certainly not comprehensive of all the services that Action has provided, but I think it gives you kind of a nice high-level category. So if you think back a few years to when we were truly a managing agent, we did all of these things, right? There was no cost associated with any of them. You called us, we took care of it, and it was a great relationship. And then a few years back, Blue Cross decided to implement a modernization strategy. They rolled out OneSource, and all of these dots on the right-hand side, all of these items that I just put in red became agent self-service, or we provided an opportunity for agents to work with us in what we called Here to Help on a fee-for-service basis. Let's be frank, that model was a great way to kind of keep business moving and keep us all going, but it hasn't been a great fit for everybody. I'm eternally grateful for the partners that jumped on with us in this, but all along I've hoped for something better, and I think we've finally gotten there. So in the new reality, of course, Blue Cross turned all the dots red, and they wiped coverage for companies and insurability right off the plate. This is the direct service model. But we can turn them all green, get you back to full service, eliminate those Here to Help monthly bills, and potentially give you a little bit of a raise as well, in that we're able to pay preferred commissions, 1% of premium for medical and RX in the under 100 market, higher than standard. So this can be a great opportunity. It's not a fit for everyone, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But, we still have a fabulous group team here. Currently, there are 9 professionals. Average action tenure of 9 years. I tried to calculate out kind of the overall experience and factoring in the folks here that have worked with other managing agents over the years and agency experience. I couldn't even take a guess, quite frankly. They've all been with us a great time, and there are lots of great perks to working with them. You get a dedicated account manager. In this co-broker model, we're once again able to provide support up to 100 lives enrolled, or 100 FTEs enrolled, I should say. We can provide a little bit of the commission support that we used to in the old days as far as inquiries and auditing, because this model puts us in a position where we have access to that data again. And, we're constantly looking as we evolve and as this model matures to find additional opportunities to scale resources across all of our various co-brokers where opportunity presents itself. Of course, this is a neat opportunity to create some safety in numbers. We've watched consolidation of the agency marketplace happen, and we've watched as carriers, have taken a step away from providing support to smaller agencies. So this is a way for producers to get some of the benefits of being part of a large agency without giving up their autonomy. And I think that's huge personally. I'm a big fan of independence and competition in the market. And of course, I mentioned 2025 and beyond here. That really speaks to things that are on the horizon that we're already aware of as far as revenues go. As Lori mentioned, this week, Blue Cross announced some changes to group commissions in 2025. They had previously announced changes to their strata, the tiers, standard, preferred, and platinum, as far as the thresholds to obtain those higher values. Those will roll in 2025 as well. So for some agents, this could be a protection play. Of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention coverage for companies, because it's been such a huge part of our business for so long. This model keeps coverage for companies in agents' hands and affords us a great opportunity to continue to enhance it. We're currently working through a very exciting roadmap of new features, adding lots of flexibility for membership and making this a more well-rounded portal. And though I can't speak to everything that's coming, I can tell you we're really excited to see this evolve over time. So, of course, one of the things agents have always loved about it is its absolutely fantastic price point. And this is an opportunity for us to keep that going in that sense and keep enhancing it. So really thrilled about that. Now, the co-broker arrangement, of course, we got to talk a little bit about logistics. And the cool thing here is that you get to maintain ownership of your book and agent of record status with all of your clients. That's really important to us, as we look at kind of how we want to partner with folks. Logistically speaking, it leverages the 3 tiers of the Blue Cross commission structure. Essentially, we bring agents onto our agency commission payable, something you may hear referred to as a CPD, and this directs your commissions through our agency. It also consolidates all of our contracts together so that, from a numbers standpoint, we qualify at the higher tiers. We get paid at the platinum tier. We pay the agents below us at the preferred tier. We use the gap between those to replace our override and cover the cost of services and technology and all the things that we can provide for you. Not a lot of downside in this. I did mention here, monthly commissions slightly delayed. It does take us some time to process. We try and keep that to a couple of days so you're not looking long for your commission deposit, but it does slow things down. The other item here that's a little bit interesting is that commission payable and agency are sort of synonymous in Blue Cross technology terms. So on things like renewal packages, where it lists you as the agent of record, in this type of an arrangement, it lists action as the agency. Still carries your name, but if you're part of an agency today, it would replace that. So something to keep in mind, because it might drive a little bit of question from a client or two. But of course, our name's always been on the renewal package anyways, just listed as your managing general agent. Of course, to do this and keep everybody on the up and up, we also put a good legal agreement in place that guarantees your ownership and agent of record, provides for termination and release of business. So if you ever want to leave the agreement, there's a pathway to do so. And it itemizes all the services we provide at a zero cost. It does this in a way that would allow, us, if we ever needed to build in cost for something, to do so with notice and so on and so forth. But I don't anticipate that happening. Just something to be aware of. But it does do a nice job of itemizing all those services that I talked about in those charts. We also put reciprocal business associate agreements in place to protect everybody from a data standpoint. HIPAA and high tech are very real, and data security is a paramount concern for all of us in this industry. This helps create a layer of protection for us. Historically, we didn't need them because you had a BAA with the carriers. We had a BAA with the carriers. That coverage extended across all of us as partners. This formalizes our relationship from a data standpoint and helps create some protection. And then, of course, there's a little bit of paperwork around commissions. Obviously, we need to know how to pay you and need a W-9 to make sure we do that. We also get responsibility for issuing your 1099 in this scenario. This does impact commissions for all of your Blue Cross business. So if you work across group, Medicare, under 65, all commissions have to funnel through the same payable because agents are only allowed one payable. In places that there is not a tiered structure and there's no advantage created, we pass through 100% of commissions. So it does not impact the value you receive for that business. It's just that it will be paid by Action as opposed to Blue Cross. The other item that's interesting to note here is the Blue Rewards bonus. If you qualify for bonus in this arrangement, we pay 100% of that at the platinum tier. We don't take any cut of it because it's money we believe you've earned as a producer doing your work to retain clients, to bring new business in the door and do all the things the right way. So we want to give you a little extra there. So very cool feature, in my opinion, to share that way. As I mentioned, this is a really collaborative effort and it is not a fit for everybody. And ultimately, the biggest factor here to me is kind of a cultural fit. It's something where both sides have to have mutual agreement, both in terms of a legal contract and in a more practical sense. We need to be good partners. Your book has to be a match with us. We're not looking for agents that do a lot of carving out for large group RX. In fact, that is generally speaking just a flat out deal breaker for us. But it's ideal for agents that are, really looking to continue growing their business, want the additional back office support that Action has provided historically, want to get back to a greater level of that than they've had in the last couple of years. I've also talked to some folks who see this as a very natural stepping stone to a sale somewhere down the road as they've got retirement on the horizon but aren't quite there. And that's an opportunity that we can definitely discuss if it's a good fit. But again, this is really got to be a mutual decision. So the only way to accomplish that is through a good conversation. And again, myself or Robert Hamlin are kind of the pathway to start that talk. And we'd love to sit down and chat with you anytime. Again, the QR code's a great way to do that. But if you'd prefer to reach out to either of us directly, you can certainly do that as well. And with that, I'm going to stay on this slide just to keep that QR code up there. But I think we're at a good point in the discussion to open the floor to some questions.
Standing by for any questions from our audience, but if there are any additional thoughts that Karl or Lori would love to share, I'm sure folks would love to hear them.
The only thing I'd just like to mention is just everybody, everyone's in a different situation. And again, with the change going on right now, it's a good time, as David mentioned, just be introspective about, the business and what fits strategically for your business. And, we've seen some agencies that look to us and we've purchased some small books of business. We purchased larger books of business, but smaller books of business, we've heard from agents saying my focus was in other areas. And the purchase allowed me to do some targeted investments or do some marketing things that they were looking at. So there's some strategic things that can really help. Again, change is a difficult thing, and we've certainly had to go through a lot on our end. But we also recognize it opens up a lot of opportunities and chances. These are those times when there's enough things taking place concurrently that's a good opportunity, again, just to stand back and say what's a good strategy for me and my business going forward. We also know a lot of agents, they end up with some of the smaller clients because they're friends, family, relatives, things of that nature. And to us, it's obviously very important, if we're working with you, is keeping those clients very happy, as we recognize those relationships and the role that we have. I do know, not to go off on a little tangent, but my personal situation, I really came to appreciate the value of the products that we sell and the service, because it really does make a difference. And it's really the whole reason I'm sitting here. So we're in a good industry, and it's something that really truly helps people. But there's so much going on in the small group market, staying up to speed and being really a good advocate for the client. Now, we're seeing the volume becomes more and more important, which was something we could help with in the past, and something the new model that the Blue Cross put in place, leaves you as an agent on your own, figuring out that direction forward. So
to take that kind of a step further, obviously what we've laid out today are scenarios and scenarios we worked in. But one of the exciting things for me personally is when you're in a diversification strategy, as we are, no option's a bad option for conversation. So, as you've gone through this presentation, if you're like, I'm not quite sure, maybe there's something here, I encourage you to get in touch with David or Robert, have a conversation. For me, one of the most exciting things right now is we can talk about just about anything. So even if it's not in one of the scenarios we've laid out here today, welcome a conversation to talk about where there may be some synergy and how we could work together, ultimately getting you back to that service model that we were able to provide you in the past, or a service model that maybe you haven't had with us, but are looking for as you move forward. There's always alternatives, and we're pretty creative around getting the right things in place for you, because at the end of the day, advocacy for agents is what we are really at our core about. So our ability to have those conversations and to encourage those is really my message here, because there's nothing we wouldn't consider, I guess, at this point, if it's the right fit for both sides. So please give that some thought as well, and some consideration as you kind of move forward. And again, I would welcome you to get in touch with David or Robert and have some of that conversation.
Yeah, we've also, I've talked to a number of folks as well. So if again, I've worked with so many people for so many years, feel free to reach out to me as well if you want to chat a little bit on how we're working with people, and just we recognize the discretion so important when you're talking about your business, and how important that asset is to you. So it's something that was part of our approach going in, is recognizing that there is a significant amount of pressure on small producers, and this is a way that might be able to relieve some of that pressure, and at least in terms of this seminar, going over some of those options that you have, and wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of how those worked.
Do you see a topic that came in anonymously? If an agent does choose to sell or refer their business, who takes care of that business? Is it in good hands is the gist of the question. I'd welcome any thoughts from our panel on that.
Yeah, I can speak to that, I think. Absolutely, it's in good hands. We've been very careful in building out a great retail team. Everybody on the team has been with us for, a very significant tenure. And they serve the markets they worked in as part of our GA FMO, folks that were behind the scenes for you for many years, working directly with clients these days. And we have we're very proud of our retention rates. We've had consistently great reviews on all the platforms from our retail clients. And, I think we're very, very focused on customer service in that space, just as we always have been with our agent partners. We're committed to the same values that we've always been for you folks with our retail clients as well.
We do have one more question that comes in from Kelly Reyes. Kelly refers to the recent Blue Alert. I talked about Blue Cross auditing GA agreements and mergers and acquisitions agreements for proof of common ownership, and wants to know whether any of our arrangements will satisfy that requirement.
Let me talk on that for just a quick second. One of the things that Blue Cross rightfully has a concern about is, they're focused on, money plays that are just saying, hey, move stuff over here and we'll pay you a little bit more money. We'll make some money, and the client doesn't benefit. And I think so. One of the things that they really were looking at was the service. Are you adding value to it? And the co-broker arrangement really has specific requirements that the broker touching the client has to be performing. And then from a co-broker standpoint, and our portion of it is the work that we're doing. So there's value being created. There's support for the customer that's being created. And so with, their concern is more of those paper shell deals that, they feel just are not supporting the marketplace. So we're in constant contact with them. This is obviously an area that's important to the Blues to make sure that there's an organized transition. I think that's part of our look at, is trying to help people that are saying, look, now might be the time to do a transition. Well, let's do it in a way that's, benefits you as a producer, but also make sure the client's getting taken care of and allows for a transition versus just the carpet getting pulled out on people. So the answer to the question, yes, we're working closely with the Blues. We'll continue to do that, and feel very comfortable with the model that we have in place.
Just to take that just one step further, we've had very detailed conversations with them, so they are aware of our model and are in full support of what we're where we're proceeding and how we're heading, and have a complete understanding there.
So on behalf of our panel, on behalf of everyone here at Action Benefits, we thank our agent partners for spending time here today, learning a little bit more about, again, the state of the group market and where we see ourselves going and how we can help support you as we continue to march forward throughout this journey that presents ourselves. All that said, one more time, thank you for your time and attention. We look forward to seeing you all again soon. I look forward to talking to all of you again soon as well. Enjoy your days.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.